My name again is Modupe Mujota. I'm a member of the Ogun State House of Assembly. I represent the good people of Abeokuta North in the state constituency. What is it about politics? Politics as a Christian, how do you go about politics? What are the key things to look for in politics, traits of a political leader, and so on and so forth? I'll start because as a Christian, entering politics was an extremely scary thought. Why? Because we always have the premonition that politics is a dirty game, the good people should stay away, and so on and so forth. But the truth is, the more I read scripture, the more I realized that the word that says, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, in Isaiah 9 verse 6, means that there is a mandate, a mantle of leadership on the shoulders of the church. The government being on his shoulders, Christ is the ultimate church, isn't it? And if you want to avoid what you see on your screen right now, it's imperative that Christians get involved. This is an image that has been trending on the internet. You've probably seen it on WhatsApp. It's a brazen show of reality of where we are now. People are on different sides of the divide as to whether we should be dissing our traditions and our culture and highlighting Christianity. That is not the subject of today. The most important thing is this a backward or a forward view of what our polity is going to look like? That said, let's talk. So we have a mandate, and that mandate is for us to be involved, because if the government is going to be on his shoulders, we as the church have to rise and be part of that government. Governance itself speaks of, it starts with self, really, governance itself. If you can't manage yourself, if you can't govern yourself, then you have no business trying to manage others. Governance is about stewardship, it's about apostleship and discipling. Why? Because the whole essence of having a political movement is that you galvanize people to act. And that was the same mandate that our apostles and disciples had as well, to galvanize people to the body of Christ. Governance is also about stabilizing and maintaining society. Who better to do that than the Christian? So governance, while it looks complex, is actually very simple if it is approached with the right heart, with the right mindset, and the right attitude. I'm going to talk more about myself and my journey and the things that have helped me along that journey, in the hope that perhaps somebody would be inspired, somebody would be challenged to take up the mantle and forge ahead, get involved. So start with self-governance, I say. Be accountable to yourself. You can't give what you don't have. That's the truth. You can't give what you don't have. If you're not disciplined, you're not in a position to discipline anybody else. Be accountable to yourself and to others. What are your strengths? What are your traits? What's the time factor that you have on your side? What are the talents with which you've been gifted? What are the treasures with which you have been gifted also? What is your trade? When I say trade, I'm talking about what skill do you have? And most importantly, what is your relationship with Trinity? If you don't feed your soul, there's no way you can be in a position to feed others. And so the first admonition I would say is take an interest. Too often we think as youth that we shouldn't, government is far from me. Government is far from me. The truth of the matter is governance starts with you, like I just said. If you can't govern your household, you can't govern your street, you can't govern your community, you can't govern your local government, and so on and so forth. And that's how the political party structure is built. It starts from your household. The number of members in your household at the beginning of your political movement. The ward structure, the polling unit structure, the local government structure, the state structure, all of them are framed from what? The individual. So you need to take an interest in the structure. You need to understand the leadership structure. You need to know who the influencers in that structure are. The second point I would say is take the challenge. You have to enlist. Way before I entered into politics actively, I had the privilege of working in an investment bank where I was charged with the responsibility to market some artisans. There were about 600 people in the room, and it was for the first time I had to market what are typically educated products to an uneducated or minimalistic educated crowd. I spoke in Yoruba throughout. It must have been about an hour. And I thought the power and energy in that room, as well as the size of pockets that was in that room, it was important that this movement I had an interest in. And so when APC put an ad in the paper at that time for membership, I signed up just out of the thought that, I needed to get involved. So you need to enlist. The gate of governance is one of the gates that the enemy will contend with the church for. And they've been contending with the church for the longest time because Christians have done what? We folded our arms. This is the time, if you're going to enlist in God's army, this is the time to do it. You have to enlist. You are the light of the world, you're the salt of the earth, but if you are not pungent within your environment, then for all intents and purposes, you're nothing. If you allow somebody else to take decisions that will govern your existence as a Christian, you had better be sure that that person is authorized to do so, not by men, but by God. One of the ways to make sure that that authorization happens is for you to enlist. So the second thing is take the challenge, enlist. The third, find a mentor. Politics is not a game or a journey that you take alone. You have to find a hand to guide you through. Your mentor not only introduces you, but they handhold you through the process. It's a very complex web when you think about it. The architecture of a political structure can be incredibly complex. So if you don't have the right guide, the right leadership, you could easily navigate and go the wrong way. But acceptance is something that you have to earn yourself. So it's not enough to just have your mentor. You have to seek acceptance of the people, and that can't be done for you. You have to touch the hearts of the people. You have to reach out to them. You have to mix with them. So the campaign trail, I went around my 16 wards in my local government 4 times, talking with the people, talking with community members. I got a name very quickly for myself that if I was in my bus and I saw 3-4 people standing at the bus stop, I'd stop and campaign. Well, guess what? The truth of the matter is that is how acceptance is built. So you have to be in touch with the grassroots. You have to get to know their pressure points, know their pain points, and understand where you can key in and alleviate those points when you are empowered by them to lead. The fourth point, remain focused. Don't compromise. As a Christian in politics, the morning dictates the day. All sorts of people will approach you with all kinds of advice. They will ask you where your allegiance. When they talk allegiance, they're talking about your God-led allegiance. Where does it lie? Because they're willing to assist you in whichever regard you choose. So it's important that from the get-go, you are known for something so that you don't fall for everything. We're not meant to conform to the world, but we're expected to transform it. And we ourselves should be transformed. In transforming it, if you don't stand for anything, then there's nothing for you to inspire. You're supposed to be a beacon of hope to them. You're supposed to be able to transform their minds over time. So it's important that you're true to yourself and they know what you stand for. It's going to be like a buffet when you join, because they will offer you, a buffet, you have 1,001 items you can pick from. And I've observed some people at a buffet, they put their inyo, they put cake, they put salad, they put watermelon and everything on the plate. And then at the end of the day, they can't eat any of it. It's like that. You have to define what it is that is your appetite, what your palate can accept, and just stick with it. Number 5, borrow vessels and not a few. Don't be picky as a Christian. Many times we're standoffish. Oh, I only want to work with Christians. I only want to work with Christians. Some of the finest people I collaborated with were people of other faiths, and we worked together. But guess what? When it was time to pray and fast, which is one of the points I'm going to talk about later on, when it's time to pray and fast, they joined me. When we fasted together. When we prayed, these gentlemen would get on their knees and I would lead the prayer. And they were inspired by it. When I had church service, they would come from Ibadan, from Ogun State. They would come to Lagos State to my service. So it's important that you are able to leverage the strengths of those that you will work with, and God will send them to you because anointing attracts. The grace upon your life will attract. And you must recognize that God puts that same grace on every man's life. So you must regard them, you must honor them, and allow them to function and guide you as well. Politics has an ideology that's very similar to Christianity. We never say get away in politics. We always say come near. So it has an underbelly of affection. Many of us have heard there are no permanent friends or enemies, only permanent interests. It's those permanent interests that keep them bound together. The permanent interest of the church is Christ. It's what binds us together. And you should be able to take that example into your political journey. Number 6, stay true to yourself. You must not lose the person that you are. Be true to the person that lies within. You must be able to say no for the greater yes that lies within. So don't overpromise. It's better to underpromise and overdeliver, because believe you me, people remember. And if you have anything in mind as by way of higher office, it's important that no matter how small it is, you promise in bite sizes and fulfill those promises as you go along. Pray without ceasing. That's the last point on this. Pray without ceasing. There are spiritual forces in high places. They are there. They're very real. You will see them stare you in the face. I remember a particular event I was to go to, and I had the most tragic physical response as I stepped out of my car. I had to get back into my car, despite the fact that the praise singers and all the drummers were there. The hall was full. I had to get back into my car and take a moment. I had to leave the site to go and take a moment. So you must be, your spiritual antenna must be up at all times. Don't sleep, because indeed, as the Bible says, you are sent as sheep among the wolves. But those wolves are looking also for leadership. So if you are worthy, if you provide worthy leadership, they will follow you. The second question, I believe, is, or the third question, I think, is around the way forward for politics and elections in this new electronic era that we find ourselves, the new normal. And I hope I'm doing well for time. Nigeria has a leapfrog opportunity with technology in that technology is usually developed outside of our country and then we adopt it. And we have an appetite for good things as Nigerians. So we not only take the technology, but we tend to take the highest level of that technology. In most parts of the world, 5G is novel technology, and yet here we've embraced it already. 4G came and went, and we were, gobbling it up. So we all kind of have that leapfrog opportunity when it comes to technology, and we have to embrace that with both hands. In the past week, I believe the US has been trying to conduct their elections remotely to some degree, and they've had all kinds of hiccups. So it just tells you that our world is not fully there yet, but we need as a nation to start to get there. It's so important for us now to find some kind of data structure, data capture structure that provides for uniqueness and that ties the individual together. What do I mean? The unique identifier in developed climes like the US is the social security number. So you plug your social security number and it links you to your bank, it links you to your health service, it links you to your education, it links you to your tax, and so on and so forth. We need to have that kind of number. With that kind of social security number as well, your voting can be done. And Nigeria has to increasingly look at that kind of data and identity structure. I think we already have it in the BVN. If the BVN, for instance, were to be a platform on which we will build the identity structure of the country, we may just be able to find that we're able to vote, even leveraging technology as simple as your ATM card. So I think that it's a place to watch. We don't have it figured out yet, but we're being dragged to that reality, and so we must move with it. So I think that that's the way to go. Will the political system like it? Not necessarily, but we've seen the political system evolve. We've seen that happen because there's an increasing demand from the people for accountability. As much as that happens, and the incremental values of that is that we will see that technology is called upon to drive the process, to adjudicate when there are misunderstandings about the process, and to also build transparency and confidence in the process. So I firmly believe that that is the way forward. I hope I've not gone too fast. But as I wrap up, let me say this. Enlist where you are. You can lead from your own community. Like I said, you have to provide leadership in your home. You have to have personal leadership. Get involved. I'm sure if I take a census of those of us in this meeting and say, how many of us know our ward leader, or how many wards are in our locality? We don't know. How many of us know who the ward chairman is? We don't know. How many of us know who our local government chairman is? We don't know. How many of us know who the councillors are? We don't know. You cannot continue to ignore the fundamental role that this structure, this giant called politics, plays in directing our daily lives. Those that are in Abuja and in the different states of assembly, state houses of assembly, are making decisions and creating laws that will guide our conduct for generations to come. We have laws that were made by 10, 20, 30, and even more years ago that are continuing to be in effect today and guard how we live our lives today. So it's important that if you don't want that kind of gentleman that was on the flyer that was showed earlier to take decisions that will bind your children and your children's children, that you take an active interest. Join your community development association, otherwise known as CDA. It's a veritable platform to influence thought as well. The councillor in your neighborhood, find out the closest ward, just do something, get involved. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done is not a prayer alone. It's an action, it's a call to action. Thy will be done on earth. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. It's not going to be done by God. It's going to be done by men and women that he has gifted, that he has graced, that he has anointed and given them purpose. You are a quiver, you're an arrow in the quiver of the Lord. You will not miss your target. So with that, I encourage you, get involved, take a position, enlist, and let's do this together. God bless Nigeria.